Greetings, I am Lies.
And I am Scandal.
And let's play a game together.
Yes.
Let's try not to drink the apple juice together. Oh.
That's especially because it's the only freaking way you're gonna get cold. Plastic does not retain heat.
You mean cold?
Cold. I know what I meant.
It doesn't retain either, so technically you're correct.
How do you know this?
Because...
You're an idiot.
Science?
How hard did you hit your head? I need to know. Sayori places the bottle against the bump on her head.
Again? Places it again?
Again, pep.
Because she had it against her head at first.
Yeah, and then she took it off.
And then she drank it, and then she put it against her head again.
At least I thought that's what happened.
Well, she did.
Ah.
And then they showed it against her head, and then she drank out of it. And I assume this is the I've already drank out of it once, they didn't have to illustrate it twice.
Yeah.
Which I am okay with that. Right.
It's fine, it happens.
It stings.
Just bear with it, it'll feel better soon. Oh my god, you whacking your head is like the representation for how much I wish I'd just die, okay? Like, it looks like you cleaned up most of the crayons, so that's good. Nice to know that you're not a mess on top of a mess.
And that you don't have a mess while being a mess. It's all a mess.
A mess.
I still am like, what was the point of saying that, Splat grabs her around the waist and drags her up when she's still on the ground? I understand that I asked that, but that's like, I didn't ask it exactly in that way, and I really am wondering, going like, and then not follow up with she won't come up off the ground or something like that.
Right? It actually, to me, is a little unusual.
It is a very different interaction to go, I reach down, grab her around the waist, and pull her up. She won't come up and stays on the ground. I release her, kind of thing. Then she now is still on the ground.
Right?
Anyway, hey, Splat. This kind of reminds you of growing up, doesn't it?
What?
You're better.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, I stopped paying attention to you in your entire existence like 300 years ago. What are we talking about?
I really only pay attention to you at all when it's absolutely necessary, like when you are crying next to me.
Yeah, because then I want you to shut up. Like, please, shut up.
You know how we used to play outside together all the time when we were like 5? And that's really when we were the most friends that we ever were. And then it just went downhill from there and we drifted apart ever after that. I mean, I would always try to keep up with you, but since you were assumably better or stronger than me somehow, even though we're in the same grade, because people have different abilities, I
would always try to keep up with you, so...
You were kind of oblivious in some ways.
What?
I would always try and keep up with you. You were always kind of oblivious.
Well, how does one follow the other?
I'm having that trouble too of going...
Is she gonna explain going, you hit me?
Or I would fall, or... There we go.
Yeah, like...
It's like two different things at once. I'm having a nostalgia trip, and I'm explaining what was going on, I think. Like, I usually fell behind or had trouble climbing on things you did, so I hurt myself.
Yes.
But sometimes when I try to do things, I couldn't. I would get myself hurt. And even back then, back at the very beginning of our friendship, when we were just hanging out as really little kids, maybe even as early as like 4 years old, like when I would hurt myself, you would yell at me and take care of me, just like now.
It was great.
I'd fall and scrape myself or get a bump. And I would start crying really hard, and you would just yell at me for being such a baby, and then you would help me.
You're still a baby.
Just like that. Except for louder, usually.
Yeah, I've kind of given up because it doesn't seem like louder gets through your brain. I figure judgmental silence works best.
Oh, I like it when you talk, though.
To you?
And you would rush over as quick as you could, screaming that I was an absolute idiot. And would try really hard to get me to stop crying. God damn it, Sayori, stop crying!
It was so cute. For a long time, I thought my name was Jesus Christ. And I thought my brother Russell's name was Dammit. Like,
damn it, why are you screaming and crying? Be quiet!
Bitch! Sayori, oh, that's what my name is, parents. No, Sayori, honey.
One of the parents says, motherfucking bitch. What is it, Mom? Oh, no.
Say what?
Sayori?
Who's that?
What?
Say
what's Sayori?
What's a Sayori? Yeah.
It was almost like you blamed yourself and were afraid of getting in trouble if someone found out, which is probably only because we were doing things we weren't supposed to be doing, and they really were dangerous for me, and you weren't thinking about my safety or your own at all, and I just followed you to break all the rules because I wanted to be with you no matter what. And so you really didn't want me to rat us out by screaming, but you really cared.
Of course. So contextually for me, I'm going, God, that is true. So let's go with the fact that, again, the assumption is the main character here is a boy.
Right.
So a lot of times people will go, if you have a girl following a boy and you guys are playing around, even if you guys are the same age, you blame the boy for what the girl is doing. You clearly aren't taking care of her, watching out for what she's doing. This is your fault. And we basically make boys responsible for what the girls are doing, but also, there's some, and I've seen it also happen the other way, too, where the girls are wandering around and the boys are following, they're going, they're not including us, this isn't fair. And I've seen, basically parents and adults get really aggressive, more or less just in whatever direction they can, going, if somebody got hurt, it has to be somebody's fault. You weren't paying attention, your friends aren't paying attention, you're terrible, awful children.
I say, if you're alone, it's your fault, but if you're with someone else, there's an immediate look to blame the other child. And I saw it a lot of the, because I was a younger sister with a slightly older brother. We're only 2 years apart, but that's a huge difference when you're really small.
Yeah.
I say, and there was this experience of me wanting to do everything that he did. And I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I do remember some of it. And I remember occasionally, there would be, one mom or another, whether it was mine or someone else's, going, you need to include her. But then if I got hurt or if I couldn't keep up and I got sad, it would be their fault, which it really wasn't their fault.
Yep.
And I've seen that a lot with just other people that I've seen around playgrounds and stuff like that, or that I've seen in groups with kids or stuff, or even again when I've done daycare and stuff, there will be one parent that's there visiting with another parent, and then a child in the corner starts crying, and both of them run over there because one belongs to one of them, right?
Right.
And then there's this level of going, what did you do to the one that's not crying?
Right.
And sometimes it gets reversed, but a lot of times it really is that way. But there is this level of expecting that boys will keep girls safe.
Yes.
And going, even if all of you got in trouble, the fact that you didn't protect the girl in the group means that you've been bad at your gender role as a boy. And I've seen that a lot. In the same way that there's that really unfortunate trope of, you're the man of the house now, son. You're going to take care of your mom, your 9 sisters, the dog, and the finances. It's this is a 9-year-old boy, and his mom's a capable adult right there. But he's in charge because he needs to protect the women folk.
Yeah.
And if anything goes wrong, it's his fault.
Yep.
And I'm like, whoa. Anyway, so I feel you there. All
no,
right.
no pressure, right? At all.
None whatsoever.
And also, you're afraid of getting in trouble if someone found out. That speaks to, a weird level of not okay. To me, that language of it, you blamed yourself and were afraid of getting in trouble if someone found out. That reminds me, so when I was a little kid, I remember wandering around and basically being afraid that, if I made a mistake, my mom would find out and I'd get in trouble for it. Even though, say, in one case, I was literally wandering around wearing shorts next to barbed wire, and my mom had said before, be careful near barbed wire. I brush up against barbed wire and I cut my knee open. And I still have it. It's 3.5, 4 inches long on my knee, this big, huge gash that I just got on my knee, and I was terrified of telling my mother, because what had happened is I'd gotten hurt and I wasn't trying to get help from her. I was afraid she would punish me. It was nothing about looking for support. It was a fear of being basically retaliated upon for something that I didn't know was going to happen.
I was going to say, and I had a lot of friends when I was younger that was the case. They were afraid of their parents' retribution, if you will, in reference to not following their parents' instructions perfectly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they didn't follow them perfectly, it was if something went wrong.
Yeah.
So I can disobey my parents as far as it's concerned, as long as nothing goes wrong. But if something goes wrong, it's my fault and I'm a bad person and I can't tell them or they'll be pissed at me. Even if it's I've hurt myself pretty seriously, I can't say anything because I did the bad thing, and then I will be in more trouble. And I never had that. My parents were both, supportive, or at least not blaming me. My dad was always the, no blood, no foul kind of thing. And I got a pretty bad knee injury at one point. And he was just it's not bleeding, so it's fine.
Right.
And it eventually, it was not the kind of thing you just walk off. I would say, but he didn't blame me for it. I wasn't afraid to tell him about it.
Right.
Same thing with my mom. I never was. And even when I was doing like something that I wasn't specifically supposed to be doing, like I just was out walking the dog for like 7 or 8 hours and we stayed way past dark into the snow kind of thing. And she's like, where were you? The fact that I came home safe was great. And if I came home and I wasn't safe, like, and I'm like, I hurt this thing, she would just be supportive. And then later would go over, these are why I have these rules.
Right.
And it wasn't like supportive, like, it's okay, you did what you did. It was like, let me help you kind of
Right.
thing.
Going like, I'm not going to like, that's one thing I never got is like people going, I'm going to punish you more when you've already seriously fucking been hurt.
So it's that thing of natural consequences going, I'm going to punish you for already receiving the natural consequences.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting one for me, because a lot of like parents that I have known or met have really been, and especially like around my family experience, have been this, natural consequences are super important. That's how your kid learns. But I'm like, if a kid falls and hurts themselves, it's like the natural consequences that I will then punish you for running where you shouldn't have run.
Right. Well, like people going, the natural consequences of you playing on the stove is you'll get burned, except it's like, it's not just that. You are literally sitting here biting my head off. That's not a natural consequence, because if you go anywhere else, nobody's going to sit there and scream at you.
I was going to say, the natural consequence was the pain.
Yeah.
And then you can talk to them about making choices as far as going, the reason I didn't want you to do that thing was because I was afraid you would experience this pain.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So trouble if someone found out.
Even though it really wasn't your fault at all, And the trouble if someone found out kind of thing does feel somewhere between that. A parent will judge you if they find out because, you clearly weren't being safe enough. But it also kind of feels like we were doing something we weren't supposed to be doing.
Right.
So don't alert them that we were breaking the rules.
Right? Did I really do that? God, that sounds like a fuck ton of work. Why would I ever put in that much work on you?
I must not have understood how important I was at the tender age of 3.
Oh, God, I must have been just like, see, I knew it. I'm just going to be in all the classes. I'm going to be in the college lit class. It'll be amazing. And I will be in class 401. And it will be fabulous and amazing. And everyone will want to hear about my protagonist story. It'll be great.
Yeah. You don't remember?
Come to think of it, maybe I do remember a bit. I lied just to make you feel better because, God, Sayori, why the hell are you so dumb? I guess I was always so focused on my games that I didn't pay enough attention to you. Like,
to really notice what was going on with you. Like, I didn't pay enough attention to really notice when you were struggling or falling behind or having troubles or, doing something that would be dangerous or challenging for you. I was just doing what I was doing and you just happened to be over there. And then you'd start screaming and crying and then it was a disruption.
And then I went, oh, right. Honestly, though, there is actually a thing where people are like, God, children are so selfish. It's like, children don't have context. Like, at all. There's also the kids just don't understand what the kind of pain they cause or whatever else. It's like, yeah, that's why you talk to them. What?
You are correct. They don't understand. Therefore, there is no way. It's that sort of thing of, there's always this question of, didn't you consider me before you did that? And it's like, if I'd have considered you and then done it anyway, wouldn't that be far worse? It's like, so no, they did not consider the consequences of their actions, which is why they did those actions. Because if they had understood that that might be one of the consequences, such as hurting a friend, hurting themselves, they might have chosen differently.
Shockingly.
Interesting. Just as adults often will be like, I didn't realize it would hurt you if I spent time with this other person without telling you explicitly and scheduling it in. And so
Here we are.
If I had known it would hurt you or had considered it may hurt you, I might have chosen differently.
Thanks.
Bitch.
Right. Yeah, so in a way, it was my fault, I guess. Kind of like this time, too. God, I'm really trying to make you feel better. If it wasn't rushing you out of the closet, you probably wouldn't have hit your head. What?
I don't know. Were we rushing Sayori out of the closet?
Oh, no, we were telling Sayori to get out of the way so we could go get the poster paper.
Which I loved that Sayori was standing outside of the closet when we were doing that.
I know! I'm also like, that is what happened. Yeah, what?
On the other hand, it could be this level of, again, like, placation or whatever, but it also could be, like, what they're intending for their designed protagonist, even though their version has been an asshole this whole time anyway, of going, you know what, I will take a little bit of accountability, because now that I'm spending a lot more time with you, I realize how much your actions are affected by mine.
Oh, and how much control, basically, I've for some reason got over you, which makes no sense.
Or just the amount of influence my choices can have on your experience. It doesn't mean I'll necessarily give you any more space or any more understanding, but I am realizing that the two are connected to each other.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Splat? I don't think you realize it, but you're always thinking about other people. Yeah, how to keep them out of my way. Oh,
my God.
How to get away from them.
Like,
no,
what?
You don't realize it. You're actually a really nice person. I know you act like an asshole all the time. It's because you don't understand that you're actually nice. Sounds like that conversation. It sounds like the one where you're pleading with someone to basically convince them that they can't be as bad as they seem because you don't believe they're as bad as they are. And I've actually seen it in other stories and things where there really is this, usually a woman, a love interest kind of woman looking at a dude that has done some pretty terrible things and it continues to do pretty terrible things, and it's like, but you're not that horrible of a person. I know in my heart because of my feels that you're not because of any empirical evidence or any rational reasoning at all. It's just because my feels are for it. And then there's really like a 60-40 split onto whether he goes, shit, if she thinks I'm a good person, I'd better be a little better, and the other 40% of going, fuck you, I'm an asshole and I'm gonna break your heart now.
Yeah, or just being like, you just don't understand the darkness in me that I need to... And it's super edgy and it pisses me off. Like, I realize where I have done shit like that in regards to stories and writing before, but you do kind of start realizing, I think, as you see it happen over and over again, it really gets tiresome.
Yes.
It genuinely is, especially if, like, you care at all about the autonomy of the other characters involved, or even just feeling bad for them because they don't really have autonomy. Mm-hmm. Like, that you're like... God, these stories are so sad, especially when you look at them from a certain perspective and going like, this is awful.
There's a level of sort of like misusing someone's trust, where a lot of times the women are portrayed as the trusting characters.
Yes.
And they just have this infinite, unquenchable faith in the, person who's being an asshole that they nonetheless believe in, going, we used to be good when we were kids. You used to not be like this kind of thing. And I know inside you're more like you used to be, because people can't have negative character development. You can't have become something worse than what you were, which is not true.
At all.
But there's a belief in that way in some people. And so you have to be that thing that you were before. And then basically just using that as drama to hurt her because she put her trust in something she shouldn't have. And wow, isn't that a blind, naive move on her part?
And it's something to make fun of. Like,
yes.
I love that thing where especially like people will use that in real life of being like, how the fuck could you ever believe me? And it's like, you jackass. We literally couldn't function as a society if we didn't have some level of trust in each other. If we didn't basically all go, I'm going to try to ascribe to the idea that you as another human being who lives in this group, in this society, we are all aiming towards similar goals, or similar enough goals, where we've all sort of socially taught each other in one way or another of how to get along, and that's what we're trying to do. But then you have people going, you're such a fucking idiot. Why would you ever believe that? It's like, because we wouldn't work otherwise.
And one of the things that really bothers me is, like, you don't have to trust strangers in the same way as you do people that you know. Like, there's no obligation to do so in any way. However, there is an experience when there's a power exchange, whether someone's in charge of you socially, like they're your parent, or they're, potentially an older sibling, or they're your boss or leader, for them to not misuse your trust, because it is expected for them to be able to lead or direct you. You have to believe them. If someone is teaching you, you have to be able to trust that they are teaching you correctly, because you cannot be sitting there, micro-examining and going and learning somewhere else everything they tell you. And so it's like, that I feel is a misuse of trust, and it should never be a joke for your boss, manager, or parent to go, ha ha, you trusted me. Because your entire relationship depends on you trusting them. If they say, this is how that machine works, and you go and try that, and they're like, you broke a $500,000 machine. Oh my God, why did you do that? You told me to do this.
Yeah.
And they're like, and you fucking believe me? I'm like, you're in charge of me. So yes, I believed you.
Yeah,
you are
why
the authority.
not?
Even after all these years, you're rushing to help me, even though I'm just being clumsy.
What? You act like clumsy is a character, like a thing that you just pick up and adapt. Sayori, you are clumsy. Clumsy is not a separate thing from you.
You're not being it. You are,
are it.
You're really a sweetheart in the end of things.
Don't call me that!
Ew.
Ew! And I don't really do this kind of thing all the time. Let me reiterate this. Again, like, I get where, like, a lot of this I'm like, so this just seems like a tsundere, basically, experience of going, I don't like you, baka, smack, and then, you know, sort of walking away, let me hurt you, let me show you that I'm not really this thing. I'm just like, why are we so immature about stuff like that? Like, in regards to people like each other. I get that sometimes it's a new thing or whatever else, but it's also, like, a fear, I think, mostly of just being hurt or made fun of. Which is, I'm like, where did we start doing shit like that? Especially, like, with teaching kids that that's what's going on. You know,
Yeah. I was gonna say, the level of if someone is abusing you, it means they like you, I have always found to be unacceptable. Like, I understand that it can mean in some cases that someone is behaving uncomfortable and they're basically having a shy or anxiety response. And so they lash out to get the uncomfortable stimulus away from them.
Right.
But that doesn't make the behavior okay, and it doesn't make it an indicator that they like you.
Yeah.
People can do that for lots of reasons. And the whole boys will be boys, they're just going to abuse the girls they like, especially like in a grade school mentality, I find completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
And going, if your kid has anxiety where they get uncomfortable around someone they're either attracted to or that intimidates them or that they want to be like or whatever, then they need to have behaviors that don't act like directly hurt that person. Like, if they leave and that person's like, they just left the conversation, that hurts my feelings, that is an okay boundary. Like, that is something they can do.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm going to yell at you or tell you you're stupid or try and make you feel inferior or whatever, that's not okay. So that's why I say by direct. If you do something and in passing, even if it's good for you, it kind of makes someone else unhappy, that isn't always your fault. Now, it can be cool if you work with them and develop different boundaries, such as you say, I need to leave the conversation, and then you leave instead of just disappearing,
right?
Kind of thing. But that, like, that's it. Like, there's a certain level of responsibility to not just attack other people, even when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well,
like,
it's a very complicated topic, and I know basically, like, child psychologists have been working on stuff like this for years, let alone just regular old therapists with adults trying to basically get back to the problem and make sure that they don't perform or teach those same behaviors to their own kids or be there for their kids if they ever have kids, or just not be mean to other people's kids. You know? Like,
just teaching people to communicate and sort of be decent to each other. Like, there is the thing of basic human decency, and everyone going, wow, you got brownie points for basic human decency. But at the same time, while it is a bar that we're all shooting for, some people have different awarenesses of what that is. Some people, it's never occurred to them ever to say please or thank you because they didn't grow up with it. And it doesn't mean that they can't learn or that they aren't being rude in certain situations, but it's not really their fault in that moment.
Yes.
And that requires additional communication if those are things that their environment needs.
Right. Because sometimes people have very different education levels, and we should be aware of that.
And that different socioeconomic background kind of thing, where if you're like, this thing that person does really, really hurts me, and everybody else in the social group is like, I don't get it, that's fine, whatever, then you talking to that person is probably the best way to do that.
Yeah.
Or if you are afraid, getting another authority to help you talk to that person, or another friend or something.
Yes.
Going, we're always in this group together, and every time you do fill in the blank, it hurts. Or if you're not even that vulnerable, just going, it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyway.
Anyway.
Well, in the next one, I guess we're not going to do this thing all the time then.
Not at all. We will not be doing this kind of thing all the time.
All the time.
At all.
Oh my God. Screw that. Okay, so if you want to support us down, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and also please feel free, I guess, to go check out the Ko-Fi and actually feed me my Twinkies. Thank you. And also go check out the Patreon. It would be appreciated. Other than that, I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you.
Bye!